Get in, nerds. We are playing Burden of Command. So, we got a big map here, and we got 3 objectives here. Um, and I'm not sure what this is about, but I suspect some tomfoolery. I suspect some Thomas W. foolery. So, here's what I'm gonna do. To start, is I'm gonna try to get eyes on this objective. With us not knowing who's holding these objectives, um, I'm gonna grab Dearborn. I'm gonna activate him first. I'm gonna get. Can I seriously not even get into this squad in one move? That's heinous. Absolutely heinous. Um, my goal is gonna be to get eyes on this objective, and I can see it from here, but I don't want to go up here because this is still an obstructed shot. So I'm figuring I can go around this ridge, and that'll be the most sensible way to do things. What kind of visibility have we got from these woods? Not much. This one's got good visibility all around here, but again, I don't want to fire by recon and weapon by recon by fire and weapon range because those could be my dudes up there. So first we'll head here. We'll hope no one's got.
Put that ammo up.
Serious lack of turning. Not sure what that means. So I can see from both of these locations. This one's closer. So let's just go ahead and creep forward. Nothing. Okay. Now this is a space that's covered. So I'm going to grab Dearborn's squad, and I'm going to head there. Okay. And then we're also going to creep.
Let's get it done.
Still not seeing anything. I think this spot might be not held at all, which is interesting. I didn't leave enough points to move the last squad. That's okay. We'll get them. We'll take a risk as we take command of them. Let me see. Again, this spot doesn't have visibility in any of there. We'll head up. We'll head up over here. Okay. Who can see us? Oh! Hi there, hello. What are you, sir? A Stug 3. A Sturmgewehr 3G. So that is a German assault gun. Okay, not great. Not great at all. I've got good visibility to this spot, and it's not showing me anyone there, so I'm going to hold off for now. Okay, what kind of range have you got? You've got a 21 step range, so, you know, we're going to hopefully get bazookas up to deal with that situation. Dearborn is done, so we'll halt for the moment, and we'll see what the enemy does. Alright, beautiful. I think I might take a little risk here and do a hustle forward and see if I can't take
Here goes.
one of these objectives this turn. Okay, can't get there this turn. Can't get into cover this turn either, unless I send Lieutenant Rao up to buff them. Which I can do that. Alright. Put you in there. Let's give them a little bolster. Oop, I clicked off it.
Cottonbalers, it's me!
And then you guys We'll head up to take this objective. Alright. Alright, so I think I was too cautious earlier. I don't think this ridgeline is held. But there's an assault gun over there, so, you know, we'll have to be careful. Alright, so I'm going to move up the rest of this here squad. So before I do that, what can this boy see? He can see all along this ridgeline and a little tiny bit of space over here. He can't see here. So we'll see. This spot's got visibility all around this area. So we'll take another squad of Lieutenant Rouse. Move them up here. Lead scout down. A sharp, thunderous blast rocks the air. A gust of hot wind blows in your face as Private Lawson, your lead scout, collapses beneath a spray of churned earth and bloody mist. You advance to your downed man cautiously, resisting the urge to rush ahead lest there be more mines about. The kid is on his back when you get to him, his jaw clenched hard to keep from screaming, but there's no hiding what he's lost. Below his knees there's only a red of smashed flesh and the stark white of pulverized bone. A German S-mine. They could take off a guy's legs if he was lucky. Image courtesy of Moser B. The kid's losing blood fast, The kid's losing blood fast! Grant hisses as he leans over Lawson's shattered legs and holds him down as the medic tourniquets the stumps. He needs a doctor real soon. Leave him. Lose one man, trust -10. Lawson is unlikely to survive. Morris, Patterson, get him to an aid station. 3 men depart. Lawson is likely to survive. Patterson, stay with him. 2 men depart. Lawson has an even chance of survival. Cripes. Stupid mines. Frickin' hate these mines. This sucks, but I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna. So, hopefully Morris and Patterson make it back before the end of the battle. I think that's what I'm gonna bet on. Morris, Patterson, get him to an aid station. 3 men depart. Morris and Patterson leave the battle. The 2 enlisted men spring into action. Within moments, they improvise a stretcher with their rifles and a rain poncho. Jesus Christ, Lawson. Morris cracks it. Jesus Christ, Lawson. Morris cracks as he helps lift the wounded man into the makeshift stretcher. What the fuck did you eat last night? The wounded lead scout manages to chuckle despite the pain. Soon the 3 of them are disappearing into the smoke and morning fog. You force yourself to focus. Your fight is still ahead of you. Okay, so this unit? Yeah, that's this unit. A cry goes up. Something rustles the bushes ahead. Your men take aim. This area should be clear of the enemy, but if it isn't... A figure staggers out of the morning fog. Your gut clenches as you recognize the distinctive outline of a German uniform. But this uniform is battered and burned, and the soldier's submachine gun dangles limp from a shoulder strap. A glance through your binoculars finds his skin pale, jaw slack, and eyes glassy. Someone shouts to him to point his gun down. He doesn't seem to hear. Your men look to you for orders. He's an enemy soldier, but your men are reluctant to simply open fire. One of them moves closer and shouts something. Still nothing. At this range, it'll be impossible to miss. Put him down. Take him prisoner. Attempt to take him prisoner. Even chance of success. Leave him alone. He's no threat to us. Trust -10. Again, the Germans violate the rules of war. I'm not going to do that. I'm risking men's lives if I attempt to take him prisoner. He's got a gun. But some intel would be really useful. Attempt to take him prisoner. Even chance of success. 4 of your men approach the German, weapons at the ready. One lowers his rifle and reaches out for the submachine gun dangling from the man's shoulder. PFC Dorman, veteran of Morocco, rakes the Schmeiser away. His fellow, PFC Campbell, pats the German soldier down and plucks the fighting knife from the German's belts. The prisoner gives a violent shake, his arms wrapped tight around his body, as though waking from some terrible dream. Then he begins to cry, great, screaming, shuddering sobs. His face contorts as the tears run down his face and snot runs out his nose. Finally, he crumples to his knees, bawling like an infant. We did the right thing! Detach one man. You detail PFC Dorman to guide the German to the rear. Given the state your prisoner's in, you doubt you need to assign more, but Dorman might not come back anytime soon. It's a trade, and the hill is still waiting. The Germans there are unlikely to surrender easily. What is with... Oh, because of the freaking suppression. Alright, I gotta deal with this. I gotta run up and give them a bolster, I think. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
Leave the wounded for the medics.
I just gotta get them forward. Well, now I've got Captain Murphy in the unit. Let's go, lads.
Let's get a move on.
Alright, so that's this objective taken. Anybody around? Doesn't look like it. Just that shtug. Okay, so I wasted all of Captain Murphy's hoodie-waddies, but that's okay. Now this area... Oop. No, okay. Now this area is pretty well... Oh, cripes! Oh no! Oh no! Oh, I did it wrong. Okay, well, it is what it is. A sopping wet runner from battalion arrives. Grant extracts a paper from a sealed pouch and glances down at it. Heintges wants us to take the hill. First Sergeant Grant remarks. He's very insistent. Heintges is in command. Of course he's insistent. There's only one way forward. That is almost a reprimand. Heintges is in command. Heintges wants the job done. Nickel Company must get up there. Yeah. I know, lad. I know, lads. I had a little command and control failure here. I was trying to go to the freaking line of sight view, and I didn't know. Okay, so the assault gun can see that spot. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take 1st Battalion up there. Again, I don't think there's any enemy units over here, so I'm going to take a kind of a risky run forward, and we'll see what we can... Why can't you get anywhere? You nerds. Get going. King of the Hill. Nickel Company arrives at its objective atop Mount Majulo just as the sun crests the horizon. You don't have time to savor the sight of the sunrise. There's plenty to do. The Germans hidden in the valley ahead of you might launch a counterattack at any minute. You send your runner JJ off to the east, coordinate with Fox Company on the other side of the hill, and set your own men to digging in. By the end of the morning, your positions are scarred with slit trenches. One by one, your platoon leaders report to your newly finished company CP to discuss what scouts have seen and where they should look next. Where are the Germans? Just as you begin to give out further orders, you hear a faint metallic rattling in the distance. An icy chill works its way up your spine as you recognize the noise, even as it grows louder. The sentries out in the forward positions shout the alarm, but you already know what it is. Tanks! German tanks climbing up the hill from up the valley. They're coming right at us. Those look like heavy tanks to me, Grant reports as he peers through the binoculars at the low metallic shapes advancing towards you. I count 6 of them. At, call it 3,000 yards? He turns to you, expressions grim. We've only got 2 bazookas, and those things will only hurt a Kraut heavy panzer. If you hit them from the back, it will only hit a Kraut heavy panzer if you hit them from the back or sides. I'm not sure this is a fight we can win. Achtung Panzer. That's the name of a very famous text from the German side. I forget who wrote it. I think Guderian. I could be wrong. I'm not sure this is a fight we can win. You hear someone else murmur an agreement behind you. Facing tanks is a job for tank destroyers or artillery, not a rifle company. Rao stares back, stern and uncompromising. We were ordered to hold this hill until relieved, he replies firmly. This is what we must do. If the odds are against us, then we must improvise. If we run here, we will not only be abandoning Fox Company, but exposing our crossings to German fire, Dearborn points out. We must stay. It is a matter of tactical necessity and a matter of honor. A burst of smoke and flame erupts silently from the muzzle of one of the distant vehicles. A high-velocity shell roars overhead, rattling the world in its wake. The enemy is in range. Your men press themselves deeper into their foxholes as the ground erupts. Several shift towards the rear, where the shells are less likely to plunge. These are the armored monsters that crushed Poland, smashed through France, and tore a hole the size of Texas into Russia. Well, kind of. A lot of these types of tanks didn't come out until after Poland, and in certain cases France, but definitely tore a hole into Russia. We must hold this hill. The company will suffer negative events. We can't hold this position except a mission minor defeat. Major victory for the men and end the scenario. Oof. I will rally the men. Get out there and lead by example. Remove chance of negative events. Low chance of captain injury or death. This is going to be a shit show if I go forward. This is tough. I gotta take out 6 panzers. I got 2 bazooka squads to do it with, and the rest of the boys are just sitting ducks. This is a hard decision. So my issue is you're really, really choked on replacements in this game. So if I take, 18 casualties or something, I'm just 9 men down for the next, 4 scenarios. I don't think it's worth it. I'm going to take a mission defeat on this. We'll fight the next time there's something. And see, now I feel silly about the ridge, but again, even though I didn't fight at the ridge, I still only barely had enough I had exactly enough replacements from Repo Depot to get my company back up to full strength. And even then, we lost a whole load of experience doing it. I'm not going to play BSing games around this. It's 6 tanks. We can't hold them. We don't... Even though I salvaged the bazookas. I've been talking with a lot of people about this game, and one of the devs said really enjoyed it when I said war is full of situations where there's no right answer. I gotta take the defeat. I'm not gonna cut myself off the shins for the entire rest section of the campaign. There are more scenarios to deal with than just this, and I can't go forward after a tough battle with only 9 men in the replacement pool. God, the temptation. There's a saying in the infantry, and that saying is never volunteer. We're out of here. You accept the unacceptable and order withdrawal. It is easier said than done. The Germans pursue. The fire is murderous and constant, but as you near the Volturno, white puffs of cannon fire erupt from the far bank. A pair of friendly tank destroyers are in position, waiting for a crossing. Just a few cannon rounds are enough to dissuade the tanks from pushing further. But thank God, all we needed was one bridge. The Germans know the game is almost up. Delay, delay, delay. That's their game. German artillery swiftly falls upon the crossings again. The nearly complete pontoon bridge across the Volturno shatters. 3rd Battalion labors until sunset to retake the hill you were too slow to secure. While Colonel Heintges calls you in that evening, he is not happy. Oop. I got a stored click there. That's okay. No one out of action, sir. Continue with the story. Ralph Woolard.
I found that my squad, and all through the war, it changed quite a bit. There was no one in it at the end who was in it at the beginning. Either wounds or killed. Our intelligence officer was killed. The first one in Italy. The second one a Captain Knox, a very fine man, killed by sniper fire. He stepped out in front of he was just looking around, stepped out in front of a tank, and a sniper got him.
The struggle in Italy. The battle continues elsewhere. Mission, minor defeat, executed a hasty withdrawal. Men, major victory, casualties greater than 10%, but still executed a withdrawal. Were they? No. I only took like 3 hits. I only took 1 hit. I lost a man to a mine. I don't know. What were you thinking? Colonel Heintges growls as you report in, his face red with fury and teeth ready to crack stone. Were you thinking at all? You derailed the entire attack. Men have died because of the call you made. Engineers exposed to German artillery. The men who died to take back the hill you fled from. And the men you left hanging in the goddamn wind. Fox Company took 70% losses today, he says in tones that drip with cold drip with cold rage. Fox Company took 70% losses today, he says in tones that drip with cold rage. There is not a man above the rank of corporal in that outfit who is not wounded or dead. So you explain to me, and you explain to me good, why the fuck you think you deserve to be standing here instead of them? My first responsibility was to my men. I considered the position to be untenable. I take full responsibility, sir. Say nothing. So this is interesting. He's asking me why. His literal question is, why did you fucking do this? But I think that's not the real question. My answer should be, I take full responsibility, sir. And that's supposed to make any of this better? The colonel replies angrily. No admission of guilt is going to bring those men back. If you wanted to take responsibility, you'd have done it this morning, and it could have made a goddamn difference. The colonel takes a breath. 3rd Battalion's orders are to take the lead when we start pushing north again, but I'm rotating Nickel Company into the reserve. I'm still verbose. Am I being relieved, sir? You're damn close, Heintges replies. I know you're a fighter. If you weren't, you'd already be on a jeep back to Naples. But you lost your nerve today, and that's not a luxury we can afford. I don't know what's eating you, whether it's a problem with your outfit or something personal, but I'm pulling you off the line to get it sorted again. If this happens again, you can expect a long trip home. Understood? Yes, sir. Good, Heintges replies. Dismissed. The next day, the rest of the battalion presses on to the north. Nickel Company stays behind and looks after its own as best it can, including Private Lawson, who survived but will almost certainly never walk again. You're almost finished when a worried figure pushes his way through your tent flap. You got a minute, Captain? Nate Stern asks as he shoulders into your tent. There's something I gotta ask you. I didn't spend 3 darn weeks walking up mountainsides just so I could cross one river and get shifted back into the gosh darn reserve. Stern fumes as he settles into a chair a few minutes later. Ask any of the guys in my platoon, they'll agree. We're here to fight the Krauts, so why the heck aren't we fighting them? He balls his hands into fists as his mouth tightens into a hard, angry slash. Every day this war goes on and innocent people die. My people die, whether you believe the stories about the death camps or not. How could I just sit here and let that happen? How could anyone just sit here, knowing what we know, and not want to get to the front and kill the first Kraut he sees? He shakes his head angrily. What the heck are we still doing here? They gotta rotate us forward sometime. He gets idealism. I'll see what I can do to get us to the front. He gets idealism, fatigue, and realism. I'll see what I can do to get us to the front. He loses combat fatigue and gets some zeal. Maybe we're being saved for something big. He gets cunning, extra fatigue, and realism. In the army, you don't always get what you want. He gets professionalism, a lot of combat fatigue, and some realism. You got a problem, take it up with battalion. He gets professional and 20 combat fatigue. I'll see what I can do to get us moved to the front. Zeal and combat and reduced combat fatigue. Thank you, sir. Stern replies. I appreciate it. A thin smile crosses his face as he shakes his head. To be honest, sir, I'm really glad you agree with me. Starting to think I was going to go a little nuts. Thanks for hearing me out, your subordinate says as he stands up from his chair. I better get back to my platoon. If we're going to be sitting on our tuchuses in the rear, we might as well re-oil our 30 cals while we're at it. A few days later, word comes back that the leading elements of the 7th have advanced out of range of their supply lines. The order is given to pack up and move the rear area forward. Your company strikes the tents, buries the latrine pits, and puts out the fires. You march north, past the battlefields the last few days, through the wet miasma of decaying bodies into a torrent of autumn rain which soaks you to the bone and makes being dry an impossible luxury. Ahead, the snow-capped peaks of the high Apennines loom and offer the prospect of hard days ahead. War is an orgy of disorder. God, what a mood. Alright, let's take a quick look at the Age of Men screen. We got, we still got 15 prestige, which is interesting. We got quite a bit of combat fatigue building up in these squads. I can't reduce that right now. I've got 2 replacements. That's great. That's just great. You're supposed to give me more replacements when I take mission failures. Ah. All right, so I need to ungoof the experience of at least a few of these squads. Can't increase this. That's interesting. I can get this squad over the line. I think that's probably all I'm going to do. I got a chunk of loyalty. And what about these fellas? I can't afford to increase their... I can't spend the prestige on this. Did I take any hits? I don't think... No, I did take hits. I took a couple of hits in a squad. So I'm going to get experience replacements in here. I'm going to spend the prestige. And we're just going to do it. Alright, so now we've got experienced squads. And, you know, weapons platoon's doing its best. Alright, so that is all we're going to do in the Aid the Men screen. Let me see, how long have we been going here? Wow, that's almost an entire episode. Maybe we'll do a long one. Let's continue. And using the creep order automatically passes morale checks when moving under fire. I mean, okay, from Italy to Enzio. January 22nd, 1944, soft ground. Still. Winter war in Italy, still a war. Oh, look at all this.
In 1943, it was one of our strategic aims to draw as many German forces as possible away from the Russian front and French coastal areas and to contain them on the Italian peninsula while liberating as much of Italy as might be possible with the means at our disposal.
As General Clark was well aware, our objectives were one thing, the achieving of them another.
November 1943, Italy. The big picture. The air trembles as another shell screams overhead, its high-velocity wail piercing through the roar of engines, the rattle of steel treads. The metal monster lurches closer, bullets ringing harmlessly against its slab sides. Now, this is another dream. Where are bazookas? Damn it. Oh, shit! Where are bazookas? Hold the hill, battalion screamed over the radio. Help is on the way. Help hasn't come, only the panzers. And right now your company is being devoured by them, squad by squad, platoon by platoon. Loose earth tumbles from the sides of your foxhole as the enemy tank rumbles closer and closer. Its machine gun lets loose with a sound like tearing linen. Another one of your squads goes silent. Fall back, retreat in your group, rally the men, get the men fighting back, or take cover. Curl into a ball and try to stay alive. Rally the men. The orders leave your lips, but you can't even hear your own voice over the roar of the engine. Are your men still out there? Where the hell is Grant? You poke your head out of your foxhole. Nothing. Nobody but the dead. Your command has been wrecked on this godforsaken rock. The Panzer's turret lets out an electric whine as it turns its gun towards you. 15th November, 1943, 0600 hours. You wake to the sound of thunder. German thunder. A constant patter of rain on the canvas above is a counterpoint to the distant artillery furor. The cot creaks below you. As you brush the sleep from your eyes, the damp maps on the table are revealed. It's been 30 soaking miles since crossing the Volturno, a torrent of storm-swollen streams and half-flooded roads. Regiment has lost more men from pneumonia and trenchfoot than Kraut bullets. And now there is Monte la Defensa. The nightmare settles deep. Combat fatigue plus 10. Monte da I'll get it. Monte la Defensa. It looms over the company's shallow trenches, the knuckles of a giant stone fist jutting into a steely gray sky. On the crest are the Germans and their artillery spotters. Monte la Defensa has to be taken. For the past week, regiment has tried its damnedest. Damnedest was an apt description, and it wasn't good enough. Truckloads of fresh-faced replacements come up the road from Naples every day. The wounded and the dead go back down the same way. You catch sight of Colonel Heintges making a little show for the arriving soldiers, despite the rain or because of it. When he sees you, he motions over with an old wooden cane, a gift from his men. Simple, handcrafted Sicilian wood to give him something to balance on while he heals up. Good morning, Colonel. How'd the attack go? How's the leg? Morning, Colonel. Not for the rest of us, Heintges notes, with a bitter and exhausted frustration. While you were sleeping, we were trying to storm our way up a 60-foot cliff. He waves a hand at the stream of dead and wounded behind him. You can guess how that went. The colonel's recklessness finally caught up with him not long after you crossed the Volturno. A German mortar put half a dozen steel fragments into his leg and blew a chunk of rock into his back. He's walked with the cane ever since. There's no time for a lengthy hospital stay. You have some work for us? He's right, I could guess. Wait patiently for him to talk. You have some work for us? The colonel came by to do more than chew the fat with a subordinate. There are more wounded up there, he notes. I need one of your platoons to help fetch and carry. Which would be your suggestion? Carrying wounded under fire can be even harder than actually fighting the enemy. Hard to take cover, and you can't return fire while lugging a stretcher. It can take 3 or 4 men to bring out one alive. Lieutenant Thompson and his first platoon. I can spare Rao in his second. Take Lieutenant Thompson in his first platoon. I can spare Rao in his second platoon. Dearborn in his third platoon could do it. Take Stern in the weapons platoon. This seems like a job for Thompson. Heintges nods and gives you the order. Soon Thompson and his platoon are moving up the slope accompanied by medics, stretchers, and bundles of gauze and dressings. He gets 10 combat fatigue. They take casualties and lose 20 trust. He looks dejected when he reports in 3 hours later. We tried, Captain, but... He shakes his head. The sight of his men returning empty-handed tells you all you need to know. I'm not gonna lie, Captain, we got licked. Colonel Heintges is grim when you report the news to him, and it soon becomes clear that it has nothing to do with your failure that morning. Our casualty reports aren't good, Captain. The way things stand, we'll be desperately short-handed on our next attack. You brace yourself for the words you know are coming. I'm rotating Nickel Company back into the fight. Next time we go up La Defensa, you'll go with us. I hope you've gotten your outfit sorted out. We'll fight, sir. We aren't ready, sir. We'll do what we can, sir. We'll fight, sir. Good. The colonel replies, that's what I want to hear, because you and your company will have a hell of a lot of fighting ahead of you. He fixes you with a look that is half exhaustion and half pity. It'll take a lot more killing and a lot more dying before La Defensa falls. Get your men ready, Captain. You'll need all the time you can get. You brief your platoon leaders to help shake the company out of a month in reserve. Weapons are checked and replacements are requisitioned. Passes are canceled, supplies are tallied, and you order a fresh stack of stationery for the letters you must write to the next of kin of the coming casualties. When the call comes, advance? No. Withdraw. Not just your outfit either, but the entire division is headed back to Naples. Rumor has it the brass are moving up a special commando force to take La Defensa instead. You see them the day your unit departs. They pull in on trucks just as Patterson finishes arranging your jeep, men in bulky ski pants and parkas, carrying familiar weapons and unfamiliar equipment. Each one wears a red spearhead patch on his shoulder. USA, it says horizontally across the top. Canada, read the letters arranged vertically below it. You quietly wish them luck, whoever they are. Monte la Defensa is their problem now. The 7th Infantry Regiment's new billets lie beyond the ancient grandeur of Naples, but the promise of hot showers, hot food, and fresh dried clothes is more than enough to make a collection of wooden huts look like the Promised Land. But that will have to wait until will have to wait because a tall brunette in an OD service uniform and First Lieutenant's bars strides towards you with a manila folder in her hand. Are you the officer in command of Nickel Company 3rd Battalion? She asks in a businesslike tone after she snaps off a parade ground salute. I am. How can I help you, miss? Can I help you with something, Lieutenant? What's a lady like you doing out here? Can I help you with something, Lieutenant? On the contrary, Captain. I think I'm here to help you, she replies crisply. I'm Lieutenant Rogers. I help administer 5th Army's medical facilities here in Naples, and I can tell you right now that your men will soon be in terrible danger. Oh, no. I forget where Naples is, but there was a moment when, well, we'll see what it is. We'll see if it's the gas. Is Naples that dangerous? I thought Naples was clear to the enemy. What's the threat you're so worried about? What's the threat you're so worried about? The kind you least expect, Captain. Rogers replies. The war has left thousands homeless, and refugees are pouring in. Most are starving and destitute. The men traffic in the black market or take up theft to survive. Most women don't have that option. Rogers tilts her head towards the sprawling city below. Desperate women are selling their virtue, and soldiers like yours, healthy young men who haven't seen a woman in weeks, are buying. I'm not seeing a problem, Lieutenant. Does that sort of thing offend your sensibilities? And nothing spreads VD like unregulated prostitution. Yeah, it's this last one. Exactly, Rogers replies. These women can't afford to care if they've got the clap. They'll sell themselves all the same, and if your boys go down there unprepared, they may find the price of a good time to be more than they bargained for. The whack officer purses her lips. We're doing what we can to keep the infections contained. We've set up sanctioned bordellos staffed by regularly inspected girls, but we're still losing entire battalions worth of to venereal disease. Jesus. Oh, that's so many dudes. That's so many casualties. Oh. There's an entire field hospital full of really bad cases down the road if you want to see for yourself. Excellent. Rogers flourishes her manila folder. I, for one, would rather prevent than cure. I'm here to deliver you a safety brief to your men before they're set loose in the city. Normally they'd send a physician, but they're busy dealing with actual cases. Now then, I'm certain you'll agree that forewarned is forearmed, and I wouldn't want to see your company walk unwittingly into an ambush. All right, safety brief it is. Permission denied. My men can take care of themselves. Possible prestige loss. So, this is possible trust loss. This is possible prestige loss. And what's in that safety brief of yours? Ask for further details. A presentation concerning venereal diseases. Rogers replies, consisting of overhead slides and medical citations followed by outliner of necessary prevention methods. I have the slides here if you'd like to inspect them. The slides are graphic, to be sure. There are high-detail photographs of the effects of both local strains of infection on both male and female genitalia that look straight out of the work of Poe or Lovecraft. There are photos of the tools used to treat such cases, too. Blades and hooks that look like they belong to the Spanish Inquisition. The only modern tool in the display is a rubber mallet. You don't even want to think about what that's used for. They need to see it. Possible trust loss. Permission denied. They don't need to see this. Possible prestige loss. They need to see this. Again, this is not an elite outfit. We can't have those guys running around all over town. Plus, this could potentially cause losses to my company. That's the thing we're dealing with. They need to see this. Rogers nods approvingly. Nothing beats a picture, not even a million words. I'll need some time to set up the overhead projector. If you could assemble your men in the mess hall in an hour, I'll be happy to proceed. Trust -2. Your beaten men are sullen about having to sit through another army lecture. Several are but asleep on your feet, but your men know better than to question your orders. They go where you tell them to. When you herd your company into the converted warehouse of a mess hall an hour later, Lieutenant Rogers is waiting beside a bulky overhead projector that all but overtops a wheeled cart. Venereal disease can kill, and prophylaxis is your only defense, she begins. How does a broad like you know so much about VD? Someone shouts in the back. Personal experience? Prophylaxis? I don't know about that, comes another voice. How about you come back to my bunk and give us a hands-on demonstration? It has many, many names, but once you get it, you can't forget it. Rogers intones, despite the rising hoots and catcalls. This is a bad idea. First Sergeant Grant whispers over you. Say the word and I'll cut this short and save the lady the embarrassment. Looks like she can take care of herself. They're disrespecting a superior officer. Good idea, pull the plug, Jack. So first one's let the brief continue. Second one is have First Sergeant Grant put his foot down, trust -5. Or third is good idea, end the brief, your men might approve, but Lieutenant Rogers won't, trust +5. I'm going to go with they're disrespecting a superior officer. Grant nods. I'll see what I can do, Captain. Hey, Cottonbalers! He barks. Don't you know you're not supposed to interrupt a superior officer while she's talking? Lieutenant Rogers shoots the two of you a quick look of gratitude as most of the men pipe down. One or two keep grumbling, but mostly to themselves. Yeah, come on, guys. Shut the fuck up. We're doing real work here. Nerds gonna take themselves out of action. That is until the first slide goes up. Even though you're braced, the image is still startling. Lieutenant Rogers speaks with cold clinical attention to the horrible details of every slide. When she covers the treatment of crystallized seepage via a rubber mallet, that seals the deal. Never want to see that again. A bullet will be cleaner. If that doesn't motivate, nothing will. Did that last one. Well, I have to say that was the more pleasant safety briefings I've ever delivered, Rogers says to you without a trace of sarcasm as your men file out. Let's hope the boys stay out of trouble, at least the kind that puts them in a VD ward. As she gathers her final slide, she flashes you the barest hint of a smile. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have other companies to brief. Thank you for your time. The iron of discipline can still break, but usually it bends first. At last, some good news. Lieutenant Rao has been awarded a Good Conduct Medal for his work at the replacement depot. The swiftness of the award suggests that someone in the upper echelons is looking out for him, but Rao eventually didn't see it that way. Apparently, when he got the news, he opened up 2 bottles of potent Napoli vino. Platoon Sergeant Carmelo, wary, short, and always to the point, says he gave 1 bottle to the men and then downed the other before he poured it out. A man drinks like that, he's not celebrating. If he's not dead, then he's dead drunk. Not exactly as an example of restraint. Man drinks like that, he's not celebrating. True to expectations, you find Lieutenant Rao in his platoon's makeshift barracks at the edge of Napoli. His men are with him, and so are the 2 empty bottles. Another third rests in his hands. Captain, he calls out as his bleary eyes focus on you and then briefly shifts to Sergeant Carmelo and his men. You are just in time. Let's have a drink. Surely this is the best of days. Dismiss his men. This conversation's for us alone. It's a pity they're going to hear this. This conversation is for us alone. The men understand they should be out of sight. Whether they retreat from earshot matters little because rumors will spread regardless. They gave me a medal, Rao says after you give him the once-over. Can you imagine that? Me, a medal, for fighting my own country. You earned it. Yes, I can imagine it. Your own country. Yes, I can imagine it. Truly? He says. Well, of course, you have the paperwork. You know it will be true. Perhaps in time the French will give me one too. He makes an effort to stand. Help him up, let him struggle, push him back down. I'm gonna help him up. The only way he'll get back to his feet is with a little help. You get him to stand and he manages to click his heels once more before he collapses back down. A darkness creeps into his eyes. I fear I will not be fit for duty, he says at last. Because you're drunk, Lieutenant? What's the matter with you? Your platoon sergeant will take over. Carry on. He gets CENTCOM FT. What's the matter with you? The matter? He said, yes, and blinks hard at the possibilities. The matter is I'm not yet drunk enough to properly celebrate. The label on it depicts a peaceful village surrounded by lush hills and a calm river. The words Deinhardt & Co., Koblenz, are draped beneath it. Sniff the bottle, toss the bottle aside. Pass him the bottle. I'm going to toss the bottle aside. The bottle's empty. A faint scent of fruity schnapps rises as you toss it aside. Whatever might have been there is long dried out. I'm mourning, Captain, Rao says at last. Mourning for what? Drink to remember or to forget? Your career? Mourning for what? Germany, Rao says. The answer's too quick for him, though, and he shakes his head to try to sober up. Both the country I grew up in and the one I grew up yearning for. I was born 2 years before the Weltkrieg, the Great War. I began school the year it ended. All my years of childhood I saw the shambles my country had become, and I heard the stories of my father, of what it was like before the war, before the November criminals took over, before things went shithouse, involved armies. Listen. I don't love the fact that he uses the phrase November criminals. Gotta keep listening. Things were, Rao says quietly, when things were good and orderly and Germany was strong and peaceful, we all wanted those things. He lets out a breath of resignation. No. Of confession. Did you know that I voted for Hitler? Suspected yes, you weren't alone? Fuck, stare at him. I suspected, I mean, your boy left in 1938. Like, this is not someone that went. This is someone that gave it plenty of time. This is not someone who thought things were going to go bad. I'm just gonna say fuck. Fuck. Well said. This is what we got, Rao replies. The old conservatives are useless. The social democrats that thrown the country into chaos in the first place. The communists. You could have put my balls in a vice and I still would not have voted for the communists. We were desperate back then. 6 of us living on my pay. A gefreites pay. A hungry time. In 1932, my father had no work and my sisters had no food. Communist gangs roamed the streets while the old politicians debased themselves at parties and cabarets. Rao says and lets out a bitter chuckle. We told ourselves that things could not possibly get worse, so why would we humor this shouting little paper hanger? He promised to restore our industry, our strengths, and our pride. Even if he could only do a tenth of what he promised, we told ourselves it would be worth it. When Hindenburg appointed him chancellor, we celebrated. You wanted a tyrant. You wanted order. You had to know there'd be a price. He told you lies and you accepted them. Anything to stop the bleeding. This is a thing I might say today, but I think back then people were just like more optimistic about this stuff. You know, restore our industry, our strength, our pride. All of this was part of Roosevelt's campaign too, and he's doing great in 1944. He told you lies and you accepted them. It was a lie we wanted to believe, Rao replies bitterly. We were so angry that we blamed everyone. The politicians, the communists, the Jews, at Britain, France, and yes, at America. We blamed and blamed and blamed. All but ourselves. So Hitler said to take pride in German greatness for our successes and blame the Jews for the rest. Some people had always hated him. I'm ashamed. Ashamed to admit that I'd never really thought of them. If they had to suffer so the rest of the country could be saved. He shakes his head. After this war, they will say that Hitler turned us into monsters. That is a lie. We were always monsters. Inside. Tell him to accept the medal, offer to send him up to battalion, offer to send him back home. Wow. Okay, this is abrupt. So there's a great moment in LA Noire when Cole Phelps gets the Medal of Honor for just completely losing his whole command. And I want to say something like what he said, which is like, I don't know, man, the brass gives out medals to give out medals. We're just Cottonbalers. We're just here to do and die. Obviously, Cole Phelps was a Marine, but, you know the drill. I don't want to send him up to... I don't want to lose him out of my... Accept the medal, Lieutenant. You think to cure my brustkrank? Rao says, coughs a dark laugh. Not take up arms against my country to fight for little pieces of metal. I came for Charlotte. There comes a cold, sour silence, broken up by the inaudible chatter of the men standing guard nearby. After the election, things began to happen all at once. My sisters were getting married. 1, 2, 3. The army was in an uproar. Rao takes a deep breath. His shoulders stiffen and his expression softens. And sends of us Charlotte. She lived in the townhouse next to ours in Stettin. She was 3 years younger than me. Always bright, always so clever. She baked biscuits on Sundays. Probably means, if you're an American, he probably means cookies. Biscuits is how they say cookies in Britain, and they're always crunchy, which that's the way the British like it. Rao reaches into his breast pocket and pulls out a faded, stained photograph set into a slim silver case. In the dim light, you can barely see the shape of a stocky blonde girl, maybe 19 or 20, smiling over a chocolate cake. We grew up together, he says, his voice barely above a whisper. We went to school together. I even asked her to marry me once. She laughed at that. Told me she was not the sort for marrying or for men at all. But there was no reason to remain friends after that. So we did until... I think there was no reason not to remain friends after that, so we didn't, at least until... Oh, Christ. Here it comes. Listen. Here it comes. Oh, boy! Hitler had not seduced us, we told ourselves, Rao continues. If he made a mistake, we would hold him to account. Yet as time passed, the more things seemed to get better, the more we excused his excesses. He suspended the elections, but my father finally found work, so I did not care. He made us swear a personal oath of loyalty to him, but he also promised to make our armies the finest in Europe, so I did not care. He made it illegal for the Jews to marry other Germans, but he stood up to the French and British, so he did not care. No. That's a lie. It was more than that. We began to hate the socialists and the anti-fascists for telling us how the police were arresting the Jews and the Poles and the dissenters. There were no Jews in my street. A few had been expelled from my regiment, but I had not known them. Who were these troublemakers to criticize the man who made Germany great again, who made me an officer and breathed life back into us? I began to think that perhaps it was time the good patriots were coming for all of these troublesome people, these undesirables. Then they came for her. One night, the colonel shouted outside her door, "A mob!" He stares at nothing, seeing only the past. At first, they shouted insults. Someone threw a stone. She screamed. I opened my window to put a stop to it, but I couldn't. I didn't. But your friend was in danger. You're not a coward, but shit. But your friend was in danger. I saw their faces in streetlights, Rao says the words are clamped tight over her ferocious anger. They were my neighbors. Some I'd gone to school with, played football with, drunk beer with. They were good, honest German patriots. Nothing to worry about or do, they said. They told me, we're here to teach this degenerate how she's not welcome in our clean new Germany. How, I ask you, do you make an answer for that? Rao lurches to his feet and kicks at the bottle. It was not until mornings that I finally had enough courage to go to the police. And when I asked the man at the desk, only made a nod and smile. Ah, yes, her. Do not worry, Herr Rao. She's been taken away. She will make no trouble for you anymore. It is impossible not to see the tears running down his cheeks. If it had been anyone else, I would have been in that mob, and I would have been happy to join them. I would have eagerly spilt innocent blood to restore my fatherland. All my life I dreamed of a Germany as it was, and I let that dream blind me. I let that dream turn the waking world into a nightmare. But you caught on in the end. You can wake up the world. You can share your story. You can resolve to see things through. Write your memory afterwards for posterity. You can resolve to see things through. I can do that. I can help force this war to end, but there will be no Germany left then. Only rubble and corpses. And yet something seems to have been resolved within Rao. Perhaps more can be. The answer to that could be found in Germany. Combat fatigue -30. Okay, so I did okay. Could have done better. Tough conversations all around. Rest and relaxation. With most of the men off in Napoli, your workload slackens drastically. For the first time in a long time, you aren't spending long hours preparing for combat, on the march, in combat, or dealing with a myriad of other problems. Between you, Grant, and Patterson's coffee addiction, the paperwork disappears quickly. By 1100, the in pile on your desk is actually empty. For a few minutes, you entertain the concept of free time, until Sergeant Grant returns from a smoke break wearing a worried look. God damn it. Random event, possible procedure, trust change, or Grant can handle this himself, loyalty -2, skip the section. God damn it. First Sergeant steps in with a reluctant Patterson in tow. Captain, you got a minute? We got an issue here. Grant says, then nudges your aide. Do I have to, First Sergeant? Patterson asks as he looks nervously at Grant. I haven't had to embarrass myself like this since the first time Frank caught me drunk, right before General Patton's speech in Sicily. Out with it. Just talk. What's the matter with you, Patterson? I'm going to pick this one because it's the most verbose. What's the matter with you, Patterson? God, this is embarrassing. Patterson grouses, let's just say I paid an admission fee last night, and I'm a little concerned there might have been some hidden surcharges tacked on. I'm worried if I could have some time off to get it looked at. Guess that safety brief wasn't as effective as you'd hoped. For something like this, you really should let him go, but if you do, that means you'll end up picking up his workload as well as your own. Then you can kiss your free time goodbye. Permission granted, get it checked out. Let him have the time to get a proper checkup. Captain and Thompson suffer 5 combat fatigue. Or permission denied, I need you here. Captain suffers trust -5. Yeah, we'll take the combat fatigue. Permission granted, get it checked out. Your aide doesn't quite breathe a sigh of relief when you dismiss him. After all, he might still have the clap. You aren't quite pleased either, especially when you see the stack of extra paperwork you'll have to take on. The man is gone for nearly 2 days. Understandably, your aide isn't the only guy in the 5th Army worried about VD. Thankfully, he returns with a clean bill of health. It turns out the symptoms are nothing more than a few particularly aggravating mosquito bites. Oh, man. Mosquitoes were killing folks in Sicily. Glad we're not there. Huge malaria issues during World War II. More problems trickle in over the next few days. Thankfully, your sergeants and platoon leaders usually deal with them, so your involvement is mostly a formality. After a few days of this, you begin to consider taking some time off and letting your subordinates deal with their own problems. Then First Sergeant Grant once again pokes his head into your office with that now familiar, worried look on his face. Oh God, not again. When cousins fight, Grant isn't alone. Within him is a beefy-looking officer wearing a black and white armband of the military police. Captain, I'm Lieutenant Watterson. Watterson? No, Watterson. The provost reports as he steps forward. I regret to inform you that some of your men have been arrested for involvement in an altercation with several Royal Navy sailors. Did they win? Soldiers fight, it's perfectly normal. What happened? Did they win? That's none of my business, Watterson replies stiffly. What is my business is the fact that your opposing number in the Royal Navy is demanding your men receive time in the stockade. He's starting to raise a stink over it if he doesn't get what he wants. A genuine international incident, just what you need to round out your day. Release my men, I'll discipline them myself. Prestige -1. Let the Brits have their way, trust -10. Release my men, I'll discipline them myself. You make sure Grant puts the men responsible on KP and latrine duty for the rest of the week, and you make sure the British know about it too. Still, that doesn't seem to satisfy them. Their grumbling doesn't stop, and if the grapevine is any accurate indication, even Colonel Sherman's caught some flack for the way you handled things. At least you managed to deal with the problem quickly. Combat fatigue -10. Oh, that's not bad. That's good, actually. That evening, you do something you haven't been able to do in a long time. You step away from your desk, leave your duties behind, and go to sleep early. For months, you've been sleeping on the ground or under wet canvas. You woke not knowing when you'd be able to sleep again when emergency or artillery fire came to call. So that night, when you sleep deep and undisturbed, when you wake up, you feel more clear-headed than you have in weeks. Lose 6 men, reduced by safety brief. Days pass and the problems keep coming in. Thankfully, only a small number of them involve instances of your men coming down with VD. When it might have been asking too much for your men to be monks, but at least you aren't losing 30 or 40 men to the clap like some companies are. Maybe that safety brief really did pay off. One morning at the beginning of your second week in Naples, you return to your desk to find a memo from Colonel Heintges marked urgent sitting on top of the morning's pile. Colonel Sherman will inspect the battalion tomorrow at 1000 hours. Prepare accordingly. Unfortunately, Nickel Company is also manifestly unprepared to face inspection after its turn on the front lines. To measure up to the standards of the rear echelon brass, it's going to take time, spit, and requisition forms for polish. All passes are canceled, trust -10. Ignore it, my men deserve more R&R, possible prestige loss. All passes are canceled. Your men are understandably upset when their R&R is cut short, even more so when they realize why. Still, they do what is expected. Hey man, you're going to be inspected. It's not the end of the freaking world. Still, they do what is expected of them, clean their barracks, get rid of contraband, hide unauthorized equipment, and the 1,000 other little tasks required to turn a combat-ready unit into an inspection-ready one. When Colonel Sherman comes to the parade ground to look over 3rd Battalion, Nickel Company is lined up and shiny. Prestige +3. Hey, that's one experienced replacement. I think this is the best turned out company I've seen all day, Sherman rumbles approvingly as he finishes looking over your company. We're going to need more go-getters like you if you want to get through what's coming. Oh, what does Colonel Heintges have to say about that? What's coming turns out to be intense training. As autumn turns to winter and the incessant rain grows colder, you and your men are issued new equipment and new cold weather uniforms before they're put through the ringer to build up stamina and strength. Christmas and New Year's come and go almost unnoticed amid the grueling regimen. But the year of 1943 isn't the only thing the 7th Infantry Regiment sees off. Colonel Heintges has yet to recover from his wounds, and the strain of command isn't helping. In the end, he has to be evacuated. His successor is Major Rawson, a newly promoted former regimental staff officer who's all of 25. This doesn't look like a 25-year-old. Ah, okay, here we go. Current CO 3rd Battalion. Major Rawson didn't always look this old. Honest, this image is from the 1960s. Okay, all right. So we'll move his hairline forward a few inches. We'll kind of perk his ears up and tighten the rest of this, and we'll be good to go. As far as you know, he's never seen real combat. He isn't the only one either. Out of all the men who landed with you at Fadala, few are left. Theoretically, the 7th is a veteran regiment, but it doesn't always feel like it. That question gets thrown in sharper relief when the 7th is pulled out of its bivouac and sent to a small town called Pozzuoli on the coast. There, the entirety of 6th Corps and some Brits, waterproof equipment, run along beaches and reduce mock pillboxes. In the distance lie hundreds of ships gathered in the Bay of Naples. A constant stream of supply trucks, heavy guns, and tanks pack the roads leading to the city. Whatever's planned for your men is going to be big, risky, and amphibious. That's interesting. I thought there was going to be a lot... So this is Anzio. This is the Anzio landings, probably. I thought there was going to be a lot more before that, but apparently not. 2 weeks into January, the entire Corps commences a full-dress landing rehearsal. It's a disaster. Barely a quarter of the landing ships make it to the starting line on time, nobody makes it to the right beach on time, and the Navy somehow manages to drop nearly 24 of your division's precious field guns into the ocean. Yet the orders from on high don't change. The event is planned for January 22nd. There will be no further rehearsals. That evening, sodden and defeated, you and your company eat in silence. Everyone knows what is coming. An invasion with a new battalion commander, a train wreck of a plan in only 7 days before the ramp drops. Hell, you'll barely be able to study the recently arrived maps. Hey, Frank, you hear Patterson ask from one table over. Can I ask you something? Sure thing, Johnny. You hear Morris answer. What is it? Where the fuck is Anzio? It's real close to Rome. Hey, it's our man.
Well, in other words, through Italy, I mean, we got up to Monte Cassino. At Monte Cassino, they pulled us off the line. We took a little bit of invasion, more or less, practice on the boats. And then we got on the boats and went to Anzio.
22nd January, midnight.
Surprise landing behind enemy lines. We'd seen that in Sicily and so would the Germans.
22nd January 1944, midnight amid the Tyrrhenian Sea. The deck of the landing craft heaves up and down as it has ever since the fleet left Naples. This will be the 3rd time this war the Cottonbalers land on a hostile beach. Just like back in Sicily, you're going to outflank the Germans by storming in like Vikings from the sea. From somewhere in back comes the fearful braying of Georgie the donkey. For the company mascot, this landing will be the first. Like Morocco, this is dependent on surprise, green replacements and undested donkeys. Another invasion awaits. Like Morocco, this is dependent on surprise. For the veterans of Nickel Company, this is just another Saturday in the Army. Even Private Roberts knows to find a place out of the wind in order to light a cigarette and keep warm. Replacements crowd around him. One asks what the fighting was like way back in Morocco. Wasn't an easy ride. The boats were cracking apart like old wood, Roberts says after he takes a drag on his cigarette. He silences their rising questions with a firm hand. It was dark, really dark, thicker than this. Worse even than that rehearsal we had last Tuesday. Not even a sliver of moon, just the stars and sea. He fiddles with his cigarette, remembering. Could have kissed the coxswain for bringing us through the reefs, safe if not exactly dry. It was a heck of a way to get into the war. Roberts catches your eye for a moment at the back of the group. Robert's telling about the French, leadership scene, possible trust and prestige change. I really gotta cut this episode. This is not... This is inconvenient for my schedule. But it is what it is. Robert's telling about the French, leadership scene, possible trust and prestige change. Private, that was a year ago. Listen quietly, wait for the landing, skip the lane. Robert's telling about the French. I'm going to listen quietly. No, I'm not. I'm verbose. I'm not going to shut the fuck up about this. Robert's telling about the French. The replacements jump and snap to attention when they finally note your presence. They're too green to note the casual motion for them to be at ease. Well, Captain, Robert says, he finally remembers to put away the well-polished lighter that he's always borrowing from Crossley. I'd like to get into all that with all the Dalmatians, madams, and chicken cars, but I don't think there's time. Besides, it's been a year and change since we nabbed all of them Germans in Fadala. Most of these new men are apprehensive because they've never seen combat. Some of your veterans are apprehensive because they've seen more than enough. Though the company is trained together, they've never fought together, and one half remains worryingly quiet while the other half is reticent. Make a speech, chance to raise release trust, just walk among them. Skip the speech, high chance for trust +5. Trade a few words with the veterans, even chance for trust +8. Study the replacements with a private talk or two, low chance for trust +10. I'm going to make a speech. Again, I'll never be quiet. You have Sergeant Grant pass the order. The men gather up. Despite the dark and occasional lurch to the deck, the replacements are particularly eager to hear their captain, though your veterans seem more interested in their gear. I was going to stand off the proud like Washington and start off humorous. This will be the regiment's third invasion. Start off firm. Skip right to the plan. Be direct. It's got to start off in the proud like Washington. That gets a chuckle from them. A few of the veterans even seem amused. That won't happen. We don't always get what we want, me or you. Of course, unlike Washington, I've still got my teeth. One of the men laughs aloud and seems startled that the others don't all join in. I couldn't see anything up there anyway. I'm not saving those for the Germans, and I'm your captain besides. And I'm saving those for the Germans. A few of the men smile, and in the invasion lighting, it's as though their teeth are blood red. You lay out the plan one last time. Get ashore, beat back the Germans, establish a perimeter, and wait for orders to advance or attack as needed. Major Rawson has come ashore with the second wave at Fadala, and he plans on doing the same today. By and large, the men don't mind walking through things again. Even after the disaster that was the dress rehearsal, the men are confident. We're going to liberate Europe. America needs us, here, now. Once ashore, your fellows will be beside you. America needs us, here, now. The men look sideways at each other. Go forward. Not later, not back home by the fire. On that beach. Go forward. A simple statement, easy for them to understand. Several of the men shuffle their speech, reach to their feet. Continue a while longer. Some of you haven't seen combat. This company lost a good captain back in Morocco. You new men have been told about the Germans. I'm going to go with you new men have been told about the Germans. They certainly have. Whenever the veterans want to put the squeak in one of the new men, they invent tales from Sicily about just how hardened the Germans are to the snap of bullets. They are. They're actually worse. But they fight smart, too. The men drink that in. Tell them about myself. Loyalty +1. You tell them where you were born and raised, and how you came to be in the army. They keep checking their watches. The new men cheer as you depart, eager to get this invasion going. I got extra loyalty, I got some trust. Hooray! The landing craft commences and knows that was probably the wrong decision to keep going on like that, but my captain loves to hear himself talk. The landing craft commences a noticeable turn. Its engines rumble to full power. Word is passed down. The turn toward the landing beach X-ray has begun. Your men take their places. The few dim red lamps aboard are snuffed out, leaving the night utterly dark. Then the clouds part. Starlight spills from the inky heavens, tracing the invasion fleet to the oncoming shoreline in ghostly silhouette. Someone forget the Artie? Patterson asks. Usually by now there's a lot of great big kabooms. Ain't you heard, Patterson? Morris says. He straightens over the prow. Everything's rationed these days. You half expect the Germans to open up after that quip. Instead, a barrage of rockets rises from one of the British ships in the distance. A British rocket ship. The rocket flares light up the night and streak towards the beach like falling stars. But afterward, only the rumble of the ship's engine fills the night. The Navy does its duty. The prow touches shore. The bow ramps down. The bow ramp drops. Your men splash through the surf and race onto the beach. There's the usual frantic advance, the desire for cover driven by the fear of an unfriendly round fired in the dark. But all stays quiet but for the muffled thump of boots on sand. As the perimeter firms up, it becomes clear that Exeter Beach is utterly undefended, or nearly so. Dark, lumbering shapes approach. You recognize Corporal Crosley. His BAR is pointed at the backs of two wide-eyed German soldiers. Behind them come Crosley's squad mates, one carrying a metal box that has to be a radio, given the man next to him hefts an antenna that clatters with a satchel that rustles with paperwork. Prisoners, Captain, Crosley says as he presents the Germans. I bet Battalion will want to hear what they got to say if the Krauts are fresh squeezed. You have time for that? Sergeant Grant asks quietly, unwilling to deflate Crosley's efforts openly. Interrogate the prisoners personally, risk trust and prestige. Just put the guard on the prisoners, skip the scene. Send them up to battalion immediately. Skip the scene, risk 2 prestige. Damn it, there's always a scene. I keep hoping it's just going to be one more set of these and then the end of the episode. I don't want to skip the scene, though. I'm going to send them up to battalion because I think that's the right call. And because I need to get going. You order Crosley to take the prisoners over to where battalion CP will be in a few minutes. Rachel Rawson can take things from there. There's a glow in the east. The sun is coming up over the Albano hills, spilling forth pale light to drive back the night. There's a millennia-old sanctuary to Jupiter somewhere in those hills, Dearborn says. His lips curl into a smile. They say it was a place for poets and philosophers. If we move swiftly, we may be there before dark. Majestic indeed. Good observation position. These men could run tight up the slope. Good observation position. From up there, you can see everything down here. I bet we can trot right over there, Thompson says. Somehow he managed to shave on the ship. My men are ready. Are they? Perhaps victory awaits, Dearborn says and gestures grandly toward the distant slopes. With the captain's permission, of course. Dearborn reduces combat fatigue -10. Word arrives from battalion. Advance and secure the beachhead. No word about those hills, though. No doubt they'll come next. You give the order and Nickel Company marches inland from the dunes. 28 January 1944, Anzio Beachhead. 6 days later, the Albano Hills still lie in the distance. The combined British and American forces now occupy 7 square miles of territory. 7 square miles packed with men, vehicles, artillery, and mountains of supplies. The Germans hold the rest. Yes, there were people who referred to the Anzio landings as a beached whale. The cough of an engine turns you from the first hint of your 6th dawn at Anzio. The vehicle careens around artillery craters fresh from the last sunset. The Krauts aren't afraid of firing at targets of opportunity either, and there's no opportunity quite like a vehicle out in the open. The vehicle turns out to be a command car, a funny-looking thing with a canvas tarp over the back, like it accidentally backed into a mess hall tent, but its occupant is Major Rawson. He wastes no time in opening the door before the vehicle is even halted. Rawson hops out the moment the vehicle halts behind a white-walled house. He strides toward you with a spring in his step, hardly the old man some affably refer to him as. After all, 26 isn't old for a major. We'll need to hurry, Captain, before things get hot. Division is preparing a field order. The breakfast is a go. Finally leaving the NCO behind, sir? Finally, sir. I'll let the post office know. Nod and just go along, skip the scene, select no support, prestige +1. Finally leaving NCO behind, sir? And, God willing, on to Rome, Rawson says. The plan for the advance from Anzio is developed considerably. The division will attack towards Cisterna and the Velitri Gap on the 30th. That much has been fixed. The rest is still coming together, likely with the 3rd of the 15th on your right and most of your 7th Company on your left. Likely starting with Item Company. But that's all preliminary. Rawson motions for you to follow him to the back of the command car. An orderly raises the canvas and reveals a somewhat ruffled Captain Boston, still gripping the sides of the vehicle with both hands. I'm not doing that again, Captain Boston blurts out. Are we still in Italy? The ride and back is a bit rough, Rawson says to you in perfectly conversational tones as Captain Rawson releases his white-knuckled grip. Let's take a look at the maps. As the maps that Rawson sets out in are dog-eared and mud-splattered. Prior plans spill across the paper showing unit deployment and enemy positions for the past 6 days. Rawson had been the regimental operations chief, the S3, before taking over the battalion, and it shows. We'll be working together again, Captain Boston says to you while Rawson works on an overlay. There'll be a counterattack like that ridge in Sicily. You're itching to go forward. So am I. But we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves, Major Rawson warns as the map unrolls. He looks straight at you. The objectives for day 1 will be Cisterna di Littoria, right here in the middle of the Velletri Gap. The Rangers will infiltrate toward the town. The 7th will follow along. Captain, your company will follow directly behind the Rangers, an item company on your left flank, and 3rd Battalion, 15th Infantry on your right. It's a bit tricky, Captain Boston says, as you consider the problems of frontage, but the sequence should work. See, the Rangers will go in first, in the dark. In the dark, just before dawn? How first is first? 2 battalions in 1 town. Let him lay things out. How first is first? Give me those sarcasm points. We'll be leaving at or around midnight so we can cover the distance before dawn, Captain Boston says. There's a good-sized ditch that parallels the road. We'll be using it to screen our movement forward. That gets us within 1,000 yards of the town. Oh my gosh, I think I remember this sequence from the day of battle. Rangers going forward through a fucking ditch. It's a disaster. The town lets us into the Alban Hills, and if we take the hills, we can cut off the Germans still fighting our boys in the mountains, Major Rawson says. If we do that, we can bag the Hun and move on to Rome. But it all starts with Cisterna, Captain Boston says. More questions? A few. Risk prestige for support. Skip the scene, +1 prestige. I've done without support this whole time, but winning is better than getting than prestige. Winning is better for my prestige than the other stuff. Risk prestige for support. Make it quick. When the sun comes up, those German guns come out. I have to ask, what's with the trucks? How much armored support is there? How good's our recon? Request additional support at the outset. How much armored support is there? We got plenty of armor. The problem is getting it to the right place, Major Rawson says. The ground's been soaking up the rain. Tanks may have a hard time in the mud and may bog down when you need them most. If a hull sinks down that mess, you'll need more than a winch to get it out. Captain Boston puts in, until things dry out, they should stay on the pavement. How good's our recon? Major Rawson frowns for a moment in thought, then motions for Captain Boston to answer that. Could be better. The planes aren't flying in this soup, Captain Boston says, then glances down towards the map of Cisterna and taps a finger on the lines there. G2 thinks there's just a German rifle company, and that they'll throw in reserves only if they think we're attacking and they can hold. That's why we're starting off at night. But they've got armor around, we know that much. Elements of the Hermann Goering Division and 2 others. I have to ask, what's with the trucks? Oh, you mean the mobile command tent? Major Rawson says, and lets slip a smile. I needed a vehicle to get some HQ pup. And some HQ pup went and fetched this for me. This beast used to drive General Patton around, believe it or not. The shell shrieks overhead. The Germans are waking up. Alright, that's enough jawing, Major Rawson says. About those prisoners you sent to the chain. You really pissed someone off with your presumption. No idea why, but it can't be good. But hold your head high. I think you did the right thing. There'll be a battalion briefing after dark, Rawson says as he opens the passenger side window. We'll figure out the attack details then. See you in the town, Captain Boston says until he follows Rawson's lead and clambers uneasily into the back of the vehicle. I guess we didn't have the time to ask for support. Gotta be careful with those options. Alright, cool. 30th January, 1944, 01:30 hours. The cold seeps into your bones as you and Nickel Company watch the Rangers climb into the Pantano ditch, their breath pale white in the moonless night. 900 Rangers go forward into the night, each man holding on to the pack of the man in front of him to keep from going astray in the darkness. Nickel Company has taken up the Rangers' former positions. Now you wait for dawn as a distant thunder booms from enemy guns. Their spotters in the hills are directing fire against the ships again. There is a glimmer of light in the east, throwing the main hills into shadowy relief. You pass the word and stand your men to. In half an hour it should be light enough to... A rip of automatic fire breaks the silence as an MG-42 opens up near the distant town of Cisterna. Another machine gun joins in, then another. The pre-dawn haze resounds with the thump-thump of enemy mortar, and bombs bursting before the town in a bright flash. The Rangers found the Germans, and the Germans don't seem surprised. Mission: seize the objective. The men suffer no more than moderate casualties. All right. Okay, all right. We'll watch the artillery come down. Remember to stay hydrated, kids. Well, at least we got some smoke support. All right, that is all we've got time for today, my nerds. I have had fun. I hope you all have had fun, and I will see you on the other side.